Hey guys, this is Jenny, and I'm going to share the little home decor project I did for the Crafters Workshop for May. This is a piece of pre-made, sort of, I guess, ready to use home decor. It was from Michael's. It's sort of a piece of thin white, like a beadboard sort of siding or paneling, and then it's got a piece of jute that's stapled to the back of it to use as a plaque, or I guess, as a little board to put chalkboard paint on, or whatever you want to do with it. I thought it'd be neat to do sort of a little project to hang on my daughter's wall, or to maybe give a friend or something. And I actually bought another little piece that you'll see in a minute to go along with it. So before, when I started, and it may be primed, but it took paint really well, so whatever the white paint that is already on it was a great base for me to start with. I used this tiny 4x4 inch stencil. It's this sort of repeated tile pattern, and some acrylic paint that I mixed one color, and I mixed several different tones of it from a light to dark, and I used that on top of just a wash I did of several different other colors of acrylics, kind of like a sort of a pale green and a light yellow and some of the white. So I just did that on the background real quick there, and it's a little messy because I just used an old brush, but after it dried, I did a lot of finger painting on this that I've done recently, which I really enjoyed. It ruined my hands, but it was a fun way to do it. So I actually just kind of rubbed a little bit of this light blue paint and white over the top of it to dull some of that stencil. Then I took this large 12x12 stencil, the sea turtles, and this darker color of teal blue, and just use sort of these, I guess it's supposed to be seaweed or something, these sort of swirls around the bottom of it to kind of create a little bit of a frame around the bottom. And just wanted to kind of start layering those same tones on top of each other, getting darker with sort of the closer it got to the top layer, if that makes any sense. This is the other piece I was talking about. It's just a plain wood heart, this sort of distressed white paint. And I like the shape of it, and it fit well with one of the other stencils I'm going to use. So I used it as a guide and just traced around the outside to make a bigger sort of mat for the same size. And I just painted white, just white acrylic paint on it, sort of freeform, and messed with it until I got about the right shape that I wanted. And then I kind of go back and use my finger a little bit and add some detail around the edge of it just to make the heart pop just a little bit more. And I do that a good bit. Some of it's shown on camera and some off, that kind of doodling. Then I take this tiny little one of the bits that's a sort of like a sun, Zia Sun, I believe it's called, a Zia Sun Bit. And I use some color shine, and I misted it onto that little face of the heart, just right in the middle, directly in the middle, so it all kind of lined up. And then I painted the edges of it with that same darker acrylic, the teal acrylic that's on the background piece. So once that was there and I sort of let that dry, I used this this larger stencil. It's called a Rustic Portal, and this is one of the stencils on it. It's kind of lace-ish, but this is one of them that's the heart, and it was almost exactly like this shape of the heart that I bought, this wooden piece. Obviously it doesn't quite match mine, but anyway, I used a pink embossing, like metallic paste on it, and while I let that dry, it kind of turned out pretty thick, but while I let that dry, I just used some of my Pitt pens and made some of the areas darker around that sort of sun stencil, around the outside of the heart, and just basically around all of the edges, and kind of defined little bits of it. And I used this teal color and the black and white and a little teeny bit of this red, just to kind of bring out a little bit of that pink. I really wasn't sure how this was going to work on the beadboard and how the grooves in the wood would affect it, but I think it looks pretty good in the end. It just sort of adds to another layer of texture. And you'll see in a minute, I had planned to do some words on it or writing or a sentiment, and ended up turning it horizontally, which I think looked okay in the end because it kind of went with obviously the lines of the beadboard. So I'm going to mess with this for quite a while and basically doodle on it with a lot of my other pens, and will write my sentiment that you'll see in a minute. I'm going to play a little bit of music to let you see what I do, and then I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back here. I wrote my sentiment on to the board, and I actually had planned to just write "Feed Your Soul," but I didn't like the spacing on it, so I added the heart "and." So then I just used hot glue to glue the heart down to the middle of the molding paste stenciled one, and that is it. These are the close-ups and the final product. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out more on the craftersworkshop.blog.com.